Okay, I'm going to play NFL 95. This is Sega Sports. Came out in 1994. And I got this in 1994 at some point for Christmas. And this is my original copy. And the other football games out were, I think, Madden 94, Madden NFL 94, Madden 95 came out at the same time this one did, I believe. And of course, you had Tecmo Super Bowl for Super NES, Sega Genesis. But I wanted to get this particular game mostly because it kept up with the stats for the whole season. So I wanted that, even though Madden 95 did keep up with the stats. I didn't know for sure it was going to. I mean, back then, we really didn't know all the stuff that we do now as far as information of games. We just kind of had to look at the back of the box and see what it said. But Madden 94 was disappointing to me because of the lack of full season stats. You could play a full season, but it didn't keep up with your stats. Well, Madden 95 did. And it was a pretty fun game. I'd never had any of the Joe Montana games or the other Sega Sports games before this. This was the first one I had. And even though it wasn't technically Joe Montana, he was still on the cover. And it was when they changed over to just calling it NFL 95. And it was a slower game. The game speed was not the greatest. It had definitely had some problems to it, but it was a fun game. And back then, when you would get a game, you didn't get tired of it, or there was no, I'm going to go complain about it on Twitter or anything like that. You basically just got the game and made the most of it. And so that's what I did. But it had a season mode. You could play one game with original or new rosters. You could kind of do some roster things to it where you could do some trades and stuff like that. But pretty sure it had to be done all before you started a season. But you would do roster management here. And let's see, I guess you have to push start. But it has depth charts, trade players, release, sign free agents, all that kind of stuff. And so if you go in a depth chart, you can have this. And the ratings definitely were a lot different back then. I mean, you've got Stan Humphries, 48 overall. If you did that now, people would have a cow if you had ratings that low. Natron Means. So there wasn't all these high-rated players. I mean, you've got wide receivers, 34 overall. Now, I can't say that I can tell a huge difference of who's rated what in the game, as far as how good they are. It's not as noticeable. But, I mean, you got a guy that's 12 overall. I think they use the full 0 to 100 scale in this game. Junior Seau's 95. I mean, that's one of the highest players on here. Steve Young, 90. Ricky Waters, 87. Jerry Rice, 98. Now, that might be, I don't know who the highest rated player is. But 98's got to be one of the highest ones. Does that have Dion on there? Let's see. I guess he wasn't. I guess he was not traded yet. Rick Meyer, 70 overall. That's pretty good for him. Heath Schuler, 45. Got all-star teams. All pros is for the entire league, everybody together. Different areas of the country team. So there's quite a bit of different teams. Let's see what Dion is. 95. So I don't know if there's a 99 overall player, or 100 even. I guess you could have 100. they didn't have the rights to Thurman Thomas, I guess, so he's just Bills running back. Let's see, go to the Cowboys, might have some high-rated players. Aikman, 90. Emmitt Smith, 98. Michael Irvin, 95. So you've got quite a few high-ranked players there. Still haven't seen a 99, but I really like that they use the full 100 scale just to separate players better. But I'm going to go over and try to find maybe Barry Sanders might be a 99. No, 92. That's surprising. I don't know how they did their ratings, exactly what all went into it, but I can't really think of who could be the 99. You'd think it'd be a quarterback. Brett Favre, a 62. Now, this was 1994, but you would think he would have been higher than that. Montana, 79. Dan Marino, 70. Cunningham, 88. So you got some good players in there. I'm just going to go into a season. It lets you go back to 92, 93, 94 would have been the current season. And the only thing they change about the 92, 93 season is just the schedule. So you don't get like the full 92 roster, 93 roster. You would use the same roster. But I'm just going to do a new season. And you go into weekly schedule, I believe, to actually choose your team to go from computer to human. So I can use any of these. So I'll just use Falcons versus Lions. All right. So then you would just go in and push start to play the game. I'm just going to do 20-minute quarters, keep all the stuff regular, save records on. You've got go back to season options or play game. And I think I'm going to be the Falcons. Kind of enjoy their team. Some of the players I got, Deion Sanders. Can't remember if they still have Andre Rison on here. I don't remember who their quarterback is. Thought I had my thing saved, but I'll just do that. Shows you what their money players are. Jeff George, quarterback, Andre Rison, Deion Sanders. But it's showing that's basically their best players is on this game, what they call money players. So you got Scott Mitchell, the Lions quarterback. Barry Sanders, running back, Herman Moore. So just some good classic players on here. This game did have some exploits, as any game has. It had some things that you could do better. But as you can see, I mean, the player models are just, they all look the same. They don't really run that fast. So it definitely had some issues. I'm going to go with that curl play. It's been a while since I played, so it might take me a minute to. Okay, that's how you switch your primary receiver. Go back to pass. So you just snap the ball with the C button and pass the ball with the C button. And then I believe you push A to switch your player when you're going back to pass. See, they've got single back, flood. So the running back's going to be the primary receiver. Got tied up there. But one of the features of this game is as you drop back to pass, you would see further down the field. That was one of the features they advertised on the back of the box. So I'll be able to see that here, but see how it drops back. But some of the problem with it could be really hard to pass. The running plays, the best ones were like toss plays. So like halfback pitch. And another weird thing is no matter what you did, they always put you in the center of the field. They didn't use the hash marks. There's this little speed burst. 6-yard gain, 4th down. But I'm at the 49. So I might go for it. Try to find a little short pass play. Tight end seam. That might work. Got tipped and somehow my guy caught it. Craig Hayward, the fullback. This game was pretty fun. I mean, it was just, at the time, you didn't have a ton of different options as far as football games. They all played pretty similar. I mean, I say that. It was a lot more than today. Because you did have Sega Sports, Tecmo, EA. At the time for Sega, you even had like NFL Quarterback Club. I can't remember who made that one. Can't remember that. You had some other ones that were options. So I guess I was wrong on the not having as many options. Try a little fullback trap. Ooh, almost touchdown. Try to find a goal line. I guess there's not a goal line. We do quarterback sneak. But overall, it's a pretty cool game. I think this was the first year the NFL allowed you to do 2-point conversion, so you were able to do that if you wanted to. The kicking meter, I can't remember, so I'll probably miss this. But it's just a 3-click kicking meter. Click to start, then the power as it goes back, and then the accuracy when you come forward. But overall, it's not a bad game. Go for inside blitz. definitely one of the issues with games back then, and it's probably still an issue now, just not quite as much of a problem as it was back then, is playing the computer could be a challenge as far as ever having a challenge. I mean, you can only imagine when you're talking about AI of a game on a Sega Genesis, it's going to be pretty basic. And so you've got a lot of throwing into coverage, running backs just running right into their offensive linemen. Not to say that that doesn't still happen some today, but it definitely has gotten way better than it was back then. And so you kind of had to do things if you weren't playing against another person, which that was always the more fun option for me, is just playing against a human. But you would have to limit yourself a little bit at times, or at that time, I didn't care. I wanted to blow out the computer and put up a bunch of yards and stats. Oh, I didn't even realize it was. Thought it was fourth down. I can call a timeout. Oh, it is fourth down. Are they going for it? Yeah. Come on, bring it. Yeah, that was really weird that they went for it right there. But most of the time, what the computer would have to do is the way Tecmo Super Bowl would do is they would manufacture sort of a difficulty level just for making the players better, which actually Madden still kind of does that with all Madden difficulty. But they definitely didn't have this great strategy or anything like that. But it was still fun. I mean, it's all you had. Craig Ironhead Hayward with the carry. I don't think I'll play a full game on this. I don't want it to be totally boring. But just wanted to kind of show off some of these older games. They were fun. I had fun with them back then. This one was good because it did have a lot of stats that you could look at. Like here, we've got, especially for the time. I mean, you're talking about 1994. There was not a lot of games that had just tons of stats. One of my favorites, all-time game, Tecmo Super Bowl for NES. That was the first game that I recall, unless I'm missing one that I can't think of, but I'm pretty sure it was the first game to have definitely stat tracking through a whole season. I think Madden 93, possibly Madden 92. And I'm not talking about any football games. I know there was probably some PC games back then that would do just text games, and it, of course, would have had stats. But as far as like actual console games, Madden 93 definitely kept some type of stats but it was just for the playoffs. So you would have you couldn't play a full season, but you would have your playoff stats, and it would keep up with them as you went. So that was pretty cool. But as far as an actual full season mode, NFL football, I don't know if it's NFL football or Joe Montana football 94. I actually forgot I have that game over there. I can see it on my shelf. I think that was actually, I misspoke earlier, that was when they first changed to NFL football as their title. But that one had full season stats, I believe. But that was still after Tecmo Super Bowl. Tecmo Super Bowl came out in 1991, I'm pretty sure. And I can't think of any other game that was before it that kept up with full season stats. So anybody that played that game, if you loved playing a full season where it kept up with your stats for a whole season, I was a sucker for that. That was everything. When I first realized that game did that, when I got it, or I played it with a friend, probably before I got it, I was hooked. Like from that point on, every sports game I played, if it didn't have the ability to play a full season and keep up with your stats for the whole season, I really didn't care about the gameplay if it didn't do that. That might sound silly, but it's true. I wanted the full season stats. And so every game after that, I would try to make sure. And at that time, obviously the problem was you didn't know until you got the game usually. Unless it said on the back of the box, you didn't know. So I made some purchase mistakes because of that. Because you would go in, Best Buy, whatever, and you would ask a person that was trying to help you, does this keep up with full season stats? And I remember this happened one time for MLB PA baseball, was a EA Sports baseball game. And I asked the guy, because I wasn't going to buy it if it didn't keep up with full season stats. I know you could play a season, but if it didn't track your stats for that season, I didn't want to get it. Well, he looked at the back of the box and he saw something about stats and said, yeah. Now, at the time, I was like 12, 13, somewhere in there. So I didn't say anything. And I was like, I don't think this guy knows what he's doing. But you think, oh, well, he works here. He probably does. So I trusted his opinion, got it home. It had stats, but it was only the stats of the year prior to when the game came out, and it never tracked any new ones. So that was a pretty big disappointment. Madden NFL 94, same thing. You could play a full season, and it did have the in-game stats that you could look at, and if you wanted to write them down, you could. But there was no league leaders, keep up with your stats kind of deal. So there was times where I was disappointed with those things. And I think NBA Showdown 1994 for Sega had kept up with your stats for the season. That was the first basketball game that I recall that that did that. There might have been a Sega Sports basketball game that came out in '94 that did the same thing. They came out the same year, but anyway, stats was a big thing. But you got player stats on here. And it would keep it up for the season. So that was what I wanted. I'm going to play probably one more quarter. But that's something that I think sometimes people overlook in today's gaming world. I get it's easy to be critical, but you got to understand where we're coming from. And things are a lot better now compared to then. I'm not saying everything's good, and I get that the standards are a lot higher. But what these games can do versus what you got back then as far as the full package, I mean, these are fun. I still like playing them, but a lot of the stuff that they put out back then wouldn't fly today. And you're talking about less than a year time development. These games at the time they started doing that on the yearly development cycle, but you're still talking about the technology was just not like it is today, and it wasn't as complicated. So I just think that it's a lot harder to make games today. Now I'm not trying to give anybody any excuses, but it's true. All the AAA titles, it's tough. But I still love going back to these games back in the day and playing them, and just I still enjoy them. That actually was set up pretty awesome. Almost got a touchdown. Let's try to see if there was a goal line play, but I'm not seeing anything. I'll just try to go right up the middle. But there is no difficulty setting on this game. It's just what it is. But as you can see, I haven't played this in a while, and I know some of these games are kind of like riding a bike. It doesn't take much to kind of remember how to play them when you played them back in the day a lot. But the computer's just not much of a challenge. Pretty good return. I think I'm just going to go with just a regular nickel, bump and run. Push the wrong button there. Finally, a Barry Sanders. Wow. Now that was, see, but then that happens. It's just that he made a great run and juked the guy out, and then just the weird computer AI took over and he just starts going running backward. Like this game, definitely the strength was not in the AI gameplay. I'm gonna go safety cheat. I think that's kind of a robber kind of play, but you know, they have their own names for stuff where the safety comes up in a robber position. Finally a completion, and now he's going to go for a touchdown. I don't have anybody back there. Herman Moore, touchdown. So I say the computer's easy, and then they score a touchdown on me. They'll get some big plays like that every once in a while, but overall, there's not as much of a challenge as you would like to have. But the graphics overall is okay. Colors are a little bit muddy. Like I said, the player models, you can't see any numbers on their jerseys. All the players look identical. They're all the same size. So he definitely had just some issues to where it's not the greatest. But for the time, it was pretty good. Try a little quick out. So this was when the Falcons had Ricky Sanders. He played for the Washington team, Washington Redskins, for a long time. Here's a little smash concept. I don't know if they actually, there with the deep corner, I don't know if they run too deep zone coverage or anything, or if it's man to man. I mean, there's just not a lot of variation. Looks like it's just man to man. Caught it somehow. Ricky Sanders. Good 34-yard gain. Still has a lot of pro set back then. Nobody really runs that as much anymore. Quarterback waggle to rising. Let's try that. I don't know if the quarterback will automatically do this, or I guess I can do it. I threw that one too quick before he came back. I felt a little pressure. Go I formation pitch here. But yeah, these toss plays are just way too easy. All right, 3rd and 3. I think I'm going to go single back. Pick that halfback circle play. That's a big West Coast kind of play. But yeah, he just wide open. But I do like the variety in the playbooks, especially for back then. You have a lot of different options. Field goals and extra points. Oh, I barely made that one. I thought I missed it. Field goals and extra points are definitely not easy. I mean, you get used to it like anything, time and get it down. But I like that it's somewhat of a challenge, but it's pretty much the same kind of meter that Madden has. Good return by Derek Moore. And we're at the half. So I'm just going to look through the stats real quick. I ended up first half 160 total yards, 39 rushing, no turnovers. They had that one long pass play, very little time of possession. They didn't get the ball to Barry Sanders very much. And you've got passing 58%. They were 1 of 4. But it keeps up with a lot of stats. Gross yards, net yards. And that would be if you get sacked. You would have the net yards be smaller, of course. These are all team rushing yards. Pretty good. Kept up with first downs that you get rushing. Defensive stats. Tackles for loss, sacks. Didn't have any other stats on there. The kicking. Even miscellaneous stats. Third down. Efficiency. Kickoff returns. And then individual player stats. Pegram 3 catches, Ricky Sanders 3 catches. Rison never had one. They only got that one completion. Jeff George, pretty good half. On pace for 242 yards, 5-minute quarters. He had the one rush, quarterback sneak. Hayward, a couple of runs. Pegram, 5 runs, pretty good stats. The Lions, Sanders only had 1 carry. I guess these guys had tackles because of kickoff. Not many tackles because they didn't have very many plays. Chris Spillman. But as you can see, it keeps up with a lot of stats. But I'm going to go ahead and end it now. But if you want to see more of these classic games, leave a comment, give a like, and I might try to do a face cam at some point also. But I just want to start these, try to see how it goes. First time, it's always going to be a little shaky. But thanks for watching.